Imagine a world without rock and roll. Hard to picture, right? No screaming guitars, no anthems about cars and teenage dreams, no electrifying stage presence. Well, that was the world before one man decided to flip the script. Let's travel back to 1926, St. Louis, Missouri. This is the birthplace of Charles Edward Anderson Berry, better known to the world as Chuck Berry. Little did anyone know, this kid from a middle-class African-American family was about to lay the foundation for a global musical revolution. Growing up, Chuck was surrounded by music. He sang in the church choir and learned to play the guitar, initially inspired by blues and country artists like T-Bone Walker and Muddy Waters. But Chuck wasn't a copycat, he had a unique vision. He took the raw energy of rhythm and blues, blended it with the storytelling of country music, and cranked up the tempo. What he created was something new, something explosive. It was the birth of rock and roll as we know it. Before Chuck, popular music was, well, a bit tame. It was dominated by smooth crooners and big bands. The lyrics were often romantic, but rarely spoke directly to the lives and frustrations of young people. Teenagers were a new cultural force in the 1950s, with their own pocket money, their own cars, and their own desires. They were looking for a soundtrack to their lives, and Chuck Berry was about to deliver it. He didn't just play music, he told stories. He wrote about cruising down the highway, high school dances, and the thrill of young love. He became the poet laureate of American youth. His big break came in 1955. After a road trip to Chicago, he met his idol, Muddy Waters, who suggested he talk to Leonard Chess of Chess Records. Chuck played them a country-inspired tune he'd written called Ida Red. Leonard Chess loved the energy, but suggested a name change. They were titled it Maybelline, and history was made. Maybelline was a rocket ship. It shot up the charts, selling over 1 million copies. It was unlike anything people had heard before. The driving beat, the narrative lyrics about a car chase between a Ford and a Cadillac, and most importantly, Chuck's electrifying guitar solo. It was the blueprint. That guitar sound was his signature. Clean, sharp, and full of attitude, he developed a style built on double stops and string bends that would be copied by virtually every guitarist who followed. Think about it, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Bruce Springsteen. The list is endless. Keith Richards of the Stones famously said he lifted every lick Chuck Berry ever played. John Lennon once declared, if you tried to give rock and roll another name, you might call it Chuck Berry. That's not just praise. That's a statement of fact. Following Maybelline, the hits kept coming. Roll Over Beethoven, a rebellious command to the old guard of classical music to make way for the new sound. School Day, an anthem for every kid waiting for the final bell to ring. Sweet Little 16, capturing the excitement of a teenage fan. And then, in 1958, he released what might be his masterpiece, the ultimate rock and roll story, Johnny B. Goode. Johnny B. Goode is more than just a song. It's the American dream set to a backbeat. A poor country boy who could play a guitar just like ringing a bell, destined for greatness. It was semi-autobiographical, a tale of ambition and talent. The opening riff is arguably the most famous in music history. It's so iconic, so representative of humanity's spirit, that when NASA sent the Voyager Golden records into space in 1977, Johnny B. Goode was the only rock and roll song included, chosen to represent our entire planet to any extraterrestrial life that might find it. That's how important Chuck Berry is. The man's music is literally floating through the cosmos. But Chuck Berry wasn't just an audio experience, he was a complete performer. He knew that rock and roll had to be seen as well as heard. And that's where the duck walk comes in. This signature stage move gliding across the stage in a low squat while shredding his guitar became legendary. It was pure showmanship, a display of energy and charisma that captivated audiences. He was in his 30s, writing about teenagers and performing with the energy of one. He connected with the youth in a way no one had before. He looked cool, he sounded cool, and he made everyone in the audience feel cool. However, his journey wasn't without its shadows. Chuck's career was marked by significant personal and legal troubles. He faced several arrests and served prison time on more than one occasion. These incidents often happened at the peak of his fame, derailing his momentum and tarnishing his public image. It's a complex and sometimes troubling part of his story, and it shows that even legends are human, with flaws and struggles. Despite these setbacks, the power of his music was undeniable. Each time he was knocked down, he got back up, picked up his guitar, and got back on stage. Throughout the 60s, while bands he inspired were conquering the world, Chuck continued to tour and record. The British invasion, which he had made possible, ironically helped revive his career. Bands like the Beatles and the Stones constantly cited him as their primary influence, introducing his music to a new generation. The Rolling Stones' first single was a cover of Chuck's Come On. The Beatles covered Roll over Beethoven and rock and roll music. They were paying tribute to their king. Even as he got older, he never stopped. He was a road warrior, famous for traveling light, often alone, and using local backup bands wherever he played. He'd show up, plug in his Gibson guitar, and deliver the goods, night after night. He performed regularly for decades, well into his 80s. Think about that stamina, that dedication to his craft. He was playing the same songs he wrote in the 50s, and they still sounded as fresh and vital as ever. His final album, titled Chuck, was released in 2017, just after his passing. It was his first album of new material in 38 years, a final gift to the world, and a powerful final statement from the man who started it all. Chuck Berry passed away in March 2017 at the age of 90. The world lost a true pioneer, but his legacy is immortal. He didn't just write a few hit songs, he wrote the rule book for rock and roll. The guitar style, the lyrical themes, the stage persona, it all starts with him. Every time you hear a blistering guitar solo, every time you listen to a song about the freedom of the open road, you're hearing the echo of Chuck Berry. He was the architect, the founding father. So, the next time you put on a rock record, take a moment to thank that guy from St. Louis, the one who saw the future and gave it a soundtrack. A guy named Chuck Berry. If Chuck's story and his incredible music got you fired up, show some love and hit that like button. It really helps the channel, and make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the legends of music. Speaking of which, who should we cover next? The explosive showman Little Richard, the king himself, Elvis Presley. Let me know your pick down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.